channel. I am your guy, I am your man, Mr. Alton Henry, and today I would like to talk to you of another film that I think is underrated and could be a little offensive, but and I actually heard about this film. For those who aren't familiar with, I'm going to talk about one of Michael Cimino's work. For those who don't know who that is, he was a filmmaker during the 70s and 80s, and a little bit in the 90s. And he didn't have a long filmography, but he's well known for the film The Deer Hunter. But I'm going to talk about his underrated, controversial crime film, Year of the Dragon, starring Mickey Rourke and John Lone, about a hard-boiling, foul-mouthed, racist son of a bitch detective who's trying to basically trying to put an end to the criminal organization in Chinatown somewhere. I don't know where. And first off, this is a screenplay by Oliver Stone and the guy who directed the film. I can see Oliver Stone's handwriting all over it because this film does not pull any punches. This film is really... It could turn some people. It could turn some people with what they say, what they do. There's a lot of slang words that go into it, and I didn't pick up all of it, but there were quite a few in there. I'm like, wow, they got away with saying this in this film. And the film came out back in the 80s. This is 1985. So I'm sure this is a time where they had this trend of certain films where a certain film comes out and it's popular, and Hollywood tries to imitate the kind of vibe of those films, where they'll flesh out certain crime films. And this is one of those, but I think this one, I think it's probably the most unique out of those kind of crime movies where you have a cop, American, chasing after the Chinese triads or anything. And I don't want to sound like I'm racist by saying that, I'm not. But this is one of those films that bombed, but I think it has a little of a cult classic status because I think the film is very well written. I think the film is very I think it's very intelligent, but it has a weird way of making you follow a character that you don't really like. And Mickey Rourke, who's I'm not much of a fan of his, but his work in this film, I haven't seen. This is top-notch acting. I've never seen an actor who just flat out just went for it, and this dude nails it as this character. He plays Detective Stanley White. His performance is amazing. I can't tell you how good his performance is. He is that good. And I think this is really the first film that I watched him as the lead. And he is amazing in this. He's really good. He plays a very unlikable character, a very unlikable detective who actually, you see his flaws, you see the guy, you witness this guy's life. He's a Vietnam vet, and from his experience in there, he doesn't hold back on the racial thing. He doesn't. And this is kind of I would kind of, just a little warning if this film gets a little bit too intense for you, because it does dive into racism, how to kind of, well, it doesn't necessarily tackle it, but it shows you the issue of people enduring certain experiences and they blame it on a certain race, and they try to find ways to overcome that racism, that evilness, that resentment that they have. And you see you see it with this character who's trying to overcome it, but it's so hard for him because he's so used to it. He's a hard-boiled, flawed, who makes mistakes, and he makes quite a bit in here. With his personal life, he cheats on his wife. He um, loses a lot of his friends. He's like so hard boiled into trying to figure out how to disrupt the crime that's happening in Chinatown. And you see that the guy does care. He just has a very aggressive and a sucky way of how to address it or how to show it. But this guy, Mickey Rourke, is phenomenal. John Lone, I haven't seen much of this guy's work in that, and in fact, he doesn't work too much. And surprisingly, this guy's got. This is the actor who was actually the villain in Rush Hour 2. And I looked at him and went, wait a minute, he looks kind of familiar. I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's the villain from Rush Hour 2. He's good in here. This dude is good. At first, I didn't kind of bill him as like the main villain, but as the film kind of went on, he does rise to shine as the head, like, Chinese triad to be like the head of it, where he's trying to figure out ways to accumulate more money, to accumulate more ways for his organization to grow. And he's I think he's kind of the most understandable villain that I've seen in a crime film. I mean, it's not just about money. The guy cares, but he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's a sympathetic, but you understand his reasons for doing so. I mean, you understand even Mickey Rourke's character, but I think he's a much more relatable villain. The cinematography in this is amazing. There's certain sceneries in here. It reminds me so much of The Deer Hunter that it was made by the same guy that I can't really say. I think The Deer Hunter is a little bit beautiful looking, but this film, as a crime film, is beautiful looking. This film is shot well. It's gritty. It's intense. The violence in this film is quite shocking. I mean, it's violent. It is brutal. When something happens, it's very shocking. Kind of like similar to a Quentin Tarantino film where he builds up. Where Michael Cimino, he's not as skilled in building suspense like Quentin Tarantino, but when violence happens, it's quite shocking. I love that value in this movie. There's an actress in here who's I guess she was a model. Her name's Arlene, I think, and her role was deemed controversial, I guess, because she plays a reporter, and then eventually she falls in love with Mickey Rourke's character, and I guess during that time, since the movie came out in the 80s, and I could see the scenario why it might have been deemed controversial. You're falling in love with the racist, which was unique, interesting, but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. And I won't get into too much of the controversy into it. I just thought the film was smartly written. I thought it was very good, and I thought it was very intense. I thought the pacing was a little bit long, but eventually, when the film kind of wrapped up and concluded, it had that happy ending kind of payoff that I guess you would want after experiencing such grittiness, such tough and hard-boiled scenarios that this film brings you. And it's not an easy film to watch. It's very like hardcore. And this film is actually available on HBO Max and on YouTube. I mean, came out in 1985. Michael Cimino, and I think the last action scene. There's not much action. It's a crime film, so action kind of happens. There's a scene in here where he finally captures Mickey Rourke finally captures John Lone at some sort of like at this like some sort of like I can't think of it. There's a scene where he chases after him. He shoots at him, Mickey Rourke shoots at John Lowe, and he gets on this train, and he gets on the train tracks and sees the train coming. He drives backwards out of it and gets out the car and tries to run on the bridge of the train. Mickey Rourke looks for him. He sees it and he calls out to his name. He turns around. John Lowe and Mickey Rourke shoot at each other, and of course Mickey Rourke gets him. And that's a little spoiler. That's actually my favorite moment in the film. That was a very intense scene. I love this sequence. This movie is very underrated because I heard it bombed and it didn't do well back in the day. But I recommend this film. I recommend it. Take precaution when you watch it. There are some moments in there where it's like it does get you. It does get you kind of like bothersome because of its racial issues that the film tries to address. I recommend it, but take your precaution. And I like that the film is a challenge. I like that the film challenges you to watch something like that. To challenge you to kind of formulate your opinion on certain things with of what you're watching. I really enjoy this film. If anybody's seen it, please comment below. Let me know what you thought about it. Please subscribe, like, and hopefully I'll see you in my next recommendation.